Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Stacy, episode 525. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Stacy. That is at StacyPan89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
Doing well. Like I said, I told you before we started this pod, I picked this shirt purely blindly out of the drawer and turned out it was the right shirt. So it's a good omen for today.
It is a good omen for today, and we'll be talking about the Knicks. The Knicks did a lot of things. I'm not sure how consequential all those things are, but they certainly did a lot of things yesterday in the last few days to kind of round out this roster entering training camp. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Talk about a lot of things. We won't talk about too much football since most of the people listening to this are not enjoying their week of football. But before we talk about the Knicks, I do make a few announcements.
High five.
Yes, we both are.
You're too sensitive to your Jets fans. I'm very sensitive to all the Giants fans who listen to us. I've never said a bad word about the Giants in my life, or certainly Eli Manning. You need to go after the Jets fans a little bit. You just beat them. You sacrificed my fantasy week from Josh Allen in a game that didn't matter. You should go after them a little bit.
No. Maybe if we win a Super Bowl, I'll have the confidence to talk all the shit that I want. But no, none of this matters. Nothing matters until January. So we'll worry about things once we get there. All right. Before we talk about not that, but the Knicks, I do have to make a few announcements. First, Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may watch this podcast. If you are not done already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.strick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we got it. Strickland also has a Patreon you can subscribe to. Then different tiers. There's $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes Around His Bows, podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord with conversation of snaps. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strick and Roll, a pod that I host along with YC, where we talk and rant and rave about the Knicks anymore. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Marino, one of the best in business, and you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Constantine Metzkos and Desmond Novak. Their further tiers is $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. That's going to provide additional benefits like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and potentially goes to podcast alongside yours to one day, whether you choose to subscribe. Not necessarily possible without you. Not necessarily possible without our sponsor, FanDuel. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right. The Knicks did, again, they did many things yesterday, and it is worth going through them. Okay. The Knicks signed Trey Jemison II, Kevin McCullough Jr., and Tosan Evbuomwan. I have to figure out how to pronounce that. To two-way deals. So all three two-way deals are now taken up. The plan is to sign Mohamed Diawara to a second-round pick. Use the second-round rookie exception to sign Mohamed Diawara to a contract after training camp. They can fit this under the second apron. Diawara is currently on an Exhibit 10 contract. The Knicks also signed, and this is going to be a list, Landry Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon. Those two are on Exhibit 9 deals. They signed Matt Ryan to a training camp deal. I believe they signed Alex Len to a training camp deal. And they also signed Dink Pate, Garrison Matthews to Exhibit 10s. And Dink Pate's already been waived. He's going to be waived. He will then be signed to the Westchester Knicks. Either way, the Knicks now have they have kind of fully rounded out the training camp roster. They are fully up, I think, to 21 bodies that you can carry into training camp. they have done that. So I don't really have. They also signed again. It's a lot of guys. They also signed Bryson Warren to an Exhibit 10. He's already been waived as well. Alex Len is signed to an Exhibit 9 contract. Matt Ryan is signed to an Exhibit 10. So they've been busy. Tosan of Blomwan, I'll figure that out. He signed to an Exhibit 10 also. Then he got, then they turned that into a two-way contract. So there we go. I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. A lot of the conversation seems to be about look, Malcolm Brogdon. Obviously, I think a guy that is past his best, but when healthy, has the type of game that I think can add value to the Knicks. Gives you a little bit more dynamism offensively, a little more creativity, definitely a little bit more ball handling. It seems like Landry Shamet and him, the way they're being discussed is that they will be on the roster. That's how it seems to be getting discussed. So both guys would be being discussed as they'll be on the roster. This is fine. The only issue is the Knicks would need to move off of somebody's contract to sign both. They can sign one as things stand. They cannot sign both as things stand. The most likely or the most straightforward, the most logical player to move on from would be Tyler Kolek in the world where you've already signed Jordan Clarkson. If you are going to sign Malcolm Brogdon, just doesn't feel like you need Tyler Kolek. That's the kind of most straightforward and most logical choice. There's also been some rumors that, again, league sources say that there's buzz around Pacome Dadiet or Deuce McBride. I will just say I flatly reject the notion that they will be moving Deuce McBride, like moving off of Deuce McBride's contract to create space to sign any type of veteran like this. The added bonus they get if they move off of, again, just so that everybody understands the details here. If they move off Tyler Kolek and get nothing back, right? So they just dump him into somebody's space, they can sign Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet. They can sign both guys. If they move off of Pacome Dadiet or Deuce McBride, they can sign both guys, and they would have space later in the year to sign a prorated veteran minimum contract, kind of like what they did with PJ Tucker last year. Is that important or appealing? I don't know, but what I would say is that is certainly not more appealing than like keeping Deuce McBride is more important than having access to sign one more prorated veteran minimum player. He's a player who, yes, has limitations, but has a track record of playing in a lot of quality lineups with some of the team's best players. He has a good skill set that complements many players in the team. We've talked about that thoroughly. I don't think we need to go over that in any great detail. And the Knicks are trying to win a championship. Like Deuce McBride, I'm not saying he's the piece that takes you over the top, but he's a guy that can help you win ball games. He's a guy that we've seen help them win playoff ball games. I don't imagine a world where they're dumping him into some team space. Also, they can sign Malcolm Brogdon, who obviously comes with significant injury concerns, is aging. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's 33 years old. Just so they can add him and add Landry Shamet and add some prorated veterans minimum player in fucking January or something. I don't think that makes sense. I don't particularly think it makes sense to dump Pacome Dadiet just so you can add the prorated veterans minimum guy in addition to Brogdon and Shamet either. But maybe if they think, hey, we've seen this guy for a year, maybe they've seen enough behind the scenes where they're like, we don't think it's going to work out. I can at least wrap my brain around that one. I wouldn't love it. I think that would be short-sighted. I think it would be a little bit fucking weird too, since they just hired, forgot the guy's name right now from St. Joe's to run their development program, like to kind of be their development guru now. I just think it'd be weird to dump him before you get a chance to kind of work with him. I could at least wrap my brain around it. Not saying I would like it. The Deuce one makes absolutely no sense on any level. I've seen people suggest that, well, there's contract extension for him potentially looming. That could become tricky after next season. I don't care, and I'll tell you why. Deuce McBride still has 2 years left in his contract. He wouldn't, whatever this extension number is, let's say it's high. I don't know what the hell it'd be. I don't know why anybody is too worried about Deuce McBride. What is his value on the market? I don't think he's just going to have that much value in the market. Not because he's bad, but just because the type of player he is, a kind of point of attack defender who profiles offensively better as a shooting guard than any type of on-ball creator. Those guys just generally are not going to get or have a massive kind of market. And I don't think his next contract would be that expensive. And again, whatever extension we're talking about here, this extension that might be, that wouldn't even be on the Knicks books until 2027. So I don't understand that, and I don't think that's a particularly strong reason to be moving off of him 2 years in advance of when this extension would kick in. If you need to deal with that, if that's a concern you have about, well, we don't want to pay the guy, you deal with that after the season. You don't deal with that right now. You don't deal with it at the outset of a season where you're trying to compete for a championship. Obviously, caveats apply. If there's some trade where Deuce McBride goes out and the Knicks get some type of upgrade that is just okay, yes, of course there are scenarios where any type of trade makes sense. Most scenarios here, and the scenario of just dump Deuce McBride into a team space that you can sign 2 vets and a prorated veterans minimum, absolutely make no sense to me. It makes a little bit more sense, but still not quite enough sense to do that with Dadiet. I think if the Knicks want to do this, if they want to add Brogdon and Shamet, have both of those guys, they have to find a way to move Tyler Kolek into a team space. And I think that's very straightforward, and that's up to them to decide.
Didn't someone say that Kolek wouldn't get them there, though? Or is
he would get them there. He would get them there. He absolutely gets them there.
I thought someone on this record or Twitter said that.
It doesn't matter. They're wrong. He would get them there. The only difference, again, is that if you dump Tyler Kolek, you cannot sign a prorated veterans minimum player until the very, very, very end of April or something like that. Whereas if you dump either of those other guys, you can probably sign a prorated veterans minimum player, I believe, in January or something along those lines. I don't think that should be much of a difference maker in this decision. Just laying that out so that everybody has the facts. But yeah, I would be pretty fucking pissed if they just dump. I think it would be their worst decision under this front office if they dump Deuce McBride to a team space. They could do this. I just think it's not going to happen. I'm just going to call my shot. I think that's a long shot. Maybe they do trade him for some type of piece that's on the board that we're not seeing, and we're going to be like, oh wow, I guess that was out there. Kind of they did do the cat trade at the cusp of training camp last year. I think a lot of different things make it a different scenario here, given how tight they are up against the second apron already. But yeah, that I guess just I'm just viewing this as it's good that they're taking, I think, the depth a little bit more seriously than they did the last couple of years. And I say that. Do I think that they took depth seriously the last couple of years? Sure. I do think it's some evidence that, yeah, some of these guys now with Tibbs gone are more likely to view a depth spot on the Knicks more favorably than they did with Tom Thibodeau as the coach. Personally, I never have gotten that upset about the lack of usage of depth players because I don't think those guys really are the ones that win you a championship. So I kind of always thought that's a little bit of an overblown issue. But if you are trying to keep guys fresh in the regular season and experiment with a few things, well, this is, it's a more appealing scenario now. And yeah, I don't know. I come away from all of this thinking they are really trying to leave no stone unturned. And they are really, really approaching this as the window is open. It is now or never for us to get through it. And we are not going to leave anything to chance. And so every spot on this roster, every rotation spot, every roster spot, every two-way spot, all of these various things, we are going to utilize all of it to the best of our ability to bring in the most talent we possibly can. And we'll see where the chips land.
I mean, it was Begley who mentioned Deuce McBride, right?
He mentioned it. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying, though. This is not a shot at Begley, and I don't think he's trying to mislead or anything. But I think sometimes these beat writers will speculate, right? So to Begley, it might make sense. Well, Deuce is a candidate there, right? They haven't played him much. They just signed. And he's not the only one. I've seen people say, well, Deuce is not going to get minutes. Knicks fans are going to complain because of Clarkson and Brogdon, which I think misses it all. Brogdon has been injured. I think it's between Brogdon and Clarkson who gets those minutes. I think it's pretty clear what Deuce brings. So if you're going to say Deuce isn't going to get minutes, it's the same thing as last year with Hart. In terms of the contracts, I think you're completely right. Deuce is an asset. This organization, with a bit of an exception, and I'll talk about that in a minute, has not traded away assets. And they have precious few. No pun intended. So, what are the assets the Knicks have? They've traded away a bunch of draft picks. They have this Washington first where we got people saying maybe Bilal Coulibaly will make a leap and they'll get into the play-in. Wishful thinking, right? And they're just they're bereft of assets. Their most valuable asset on the trade market that isn't a star is probably Deuce. I mean, Deuce probably has more trade value. Obviously, with the salary, it makes it tougher than Mitch. If I was trading with the Knicks, I would rather have Deuce than Mitch as if you are doing throw-ins or just looking at total value. He's very important to the team. They are a team that is sorely lacking in point of attack defenders. Brogdon, I think, is competent there and better than a guy like Jordan Clarkson, but he's not someone you can rely on for heavy minutes doing that. And they don't have point of attack defenders. So I think it would make the team worse, right? And I will say this. I know you're not the biggest Quentin Grimes fan, but they traded Quentin Grimes to get two veterans, right? To sign two veterans. They're older, that could help the team for the playoff push. In retrospect, do you think that was a good trade?
No.
Yeah, right. And I'm not raking them over the coals for that, but I think it shows you that when if you're trading a young guy who should improve, and Grimes did improve. Let's not beat around the bush on that.
Yeah, he improved a lot in low leverage situations. Congrats to him.
But my point is, I think we would have rather had Grimes here last year, right? Obviously, you have the contract and all that. There's other things.
I don't know. Depends. Was he going to keep pouting and crying and being a little baby?
Yeah,
because maybe I wouldn't want that version of Grimes because he was terrible the year before in New York.
Yeah, and maybe
I'm not trying to take away from your point. I am suggesting though that to me the difference is
Grimes is a loser.
Well, that too, but the difference is Grimes' behavior, Grimes' demeanor seeped into his effort on the floor, seeped into his impact on the floor, seeped into his play on the floor, and he was no longer a high value asset for the Knicks in terms of his impact on the court when he played that last season in New York. And I said it at the time, prior to the trade, I would have kept him. I thought it made sense to keep him because I thought that he was an asset. Like I would have revisited it after the season. I would have kept him for the season and then revisited it. Now, to the kind of like to where it gets tricky is I think the Knicks thought they had a legitimate chance of winning a championship last year or in that year. So in 2023-24, I think they thought they had a legitimate shot at winning a championship. Grimes played like 5 games after the trade deadline, after he was moved, and then was out for the rest of the year. It's a hard one to kind of walk the line. But if you want to just boil it down to like, look back at the trade value-wise, like, yeah, like we did not get great value for Quentin Grimes. I think that's more than fair to say. And I would say to the point you're making, the difference to me and why this is different is, and look, maybe Deuce is going to come in, and if he doesn't get the minutes that he thinks he deserves, the role he thinks he deserves, he's going to start pouting and he's going to start mailing it in defensively and whatever. Like, maybe that's all what's going to happen, and he will have tanked his value too. I can't speak to that. But what I would say is that to date, and he's never gotten the type of starting role, obviously, that Grimes has. He's never gotten the minutes consistently that Grimes has. To date, we haven't seen that. To date, to this point in his career, all we've seen is Deuce McBride play really hard when he gets opportunities, not complain about his role publicly ever, literally ever. Like, the first time he said anything was after we lost Game 6 to the Pacers and our season was over. And even what he said was not exactly like, I have a hard time kind of, he didn't say the ball felt like, he was shooting fucking 50-pound ball, right? It wasn't the same thing. So I just think, to the point you're making, yes, the Grimes trade is a mistake. The Knicks should learn from that. But I also think the circumstances themselves and the players themselves and how they've conducted themselves, it makes the decision even more straightforward for the Knicks of like, don't do it. It doesn't make any sense to do it. And at least in that scenario, right? Like, at least you were like trading for these guys. Like, you're trading for Bogdanovich and Brogdon, and then and clearly Bogdanovich's contract was a piece of that. And then you're able to parlay that into Mikal Bridges, whatever. I just think it'd be insane there's not a single argument somebody can make to me. Like, maybe there's a trade, right, of Deuce McBride for player X that's actually great and awesome. And if it gets, maybe we see it and I'm like, okay, well, actually that one makes sense. There's just no argument to me that trading Deuce McBride into a team space, just dumping him effectively, so you can sign Shamet and Brogdon and a prorated veterans minimum at some point in the season, is worth it. Like, it's just not. It's really that straightforward to me. And also, like, how many good perimeter defenders do we have in this roster right now? Deuce, Mikal hopefully bounces back. I mean, he was probably good last year, but definitely not what you were hoping for. OG. Am I missing anybody? Like,
well, you said perimeter, right?
Yeah. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Yeah. So, like, and point of attack, like, Deuce is pretty easily your best point of attack defender to me. Malcolm Brogdon doesn't help you with either of those things. Landry Shamet doesn't help you with either of those things. Random
not for more than like 5 minutes a game.
Right.
If you play 30 minutes, they're going to be bad.
Random Jordan Clarkson doesn't help you with those things for sure. Random prorated veterans minimum guy that you sign in January is probably not going to help you those things either. Like, I'm sorry, like, this just, the Deuce thing makes no sense. And look, the Dadiet one, for me, if that was the move they made, I would be against it. But again, like, at least with him, maybe the argument can be as simple as, we like the talent. He's not close right now. He is not close to contributing based on what we've seen. We're in a championship window. We will risk that Dadiet ends up becoming something in a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, because we think the value of getting both these vets and then the potential to add a third vet down the line moves the needle enough for us in a championship window, season, whatever you want to put it. Maybe that kind of risk, that cost benefit, right? Maybe that trade-off is worth it. Maybe that's worth it. I could at least wrap my brain around that logic. I could not wrap my brain around the Deuce McBride logic at all. That just wouldn't pass the smell test in any way for me.
Unless it's a trade for, like you said, he is an asset. You cannot punt away the very few assets you have. I mean, what else can they trade, right? Unless you're not trading Brunson, Cat is just a very unique situation. But you don't have young. He is your only young, promising talent. I don't think Dadiet probably has much value unless you're sending him to a place like Brooklyn, right? I'm not using Brooklyn derogatory. I mean a team that is rebuilding, and would like to take. I'm not going to say a flyer, but if they can trade a vet for a guy like that, they would do it, and it would make sense. So it's not a slight. With Dadiet, I would trust them. If they were to trade Dadiet, which I don't think they'll do still, I would say, yeah, to your point, the evaluation, I would even say, I think even if they thought he's not close, but we can see him getting there, they wouldn't do it. I think that to me, it would say we don't think he's ever getting there. And we'd be willing to make that bet. I think there is a player that you can say that about on the Knicks roster. And when I say that, I mean Kolek is already ready to play NBA minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes a night as a backup point guard on a decent team. Absolutely. It seems very difficult to believe he's going to be much more than that, right? There are defensive issues. He doesn't look like he's going to be a high-volume three-point shooter. What he's great at is running the offense for 5 to 10 minutes, ideally playing next to someone else who can be a scoring weapon, but he puts them in their spots. That has value, but there is kind of his ceiling is backup guard, his floor is backup guard, kind of, right? And he's in that range. It's very well defined, and it's not like the two players that the Knicks have signed, right? The Knicks have signed 2 players in this mold. Obviously, they lost Payne. They signed Clarkson and they signed Brogdon, who do those things. So he's the one logically looking at that you would squeeze. The only reason I think they would prefer to trade Dadiet over Kolek is if some team really likes Dadiet and is like, we'll give you a top 10 protected first, or top. I don't think anyone's going to give an unprotected first, right? But if a team is like, we'll give you a first round pick that's very likely to convey, they might do that, right? Or if you get an actually useful vet, and you can't for Kolek because Kolek just has lower trade value, that's the only scenario in which I'd see that. But yeah, I think the Deuce thing was speculation. I don't want to imply. Sorry, I hate that when people make that mistake. Imply that there are any nefarious motives from people who mention Deuce. But he's not going to get traded to create room for Brogdon. I did want to ask you this, Shwin, and if you have any thoughts on this before that, to close out, definitely feel free. I think it was a few years ago where you mentioned Garrison Matthews as a guy you liked when the Wizards. Well, the Wizards are always terrible, but I remember we played the Wizards, and I was complaining, as I always do when I haven't heard of a player and he's going off. And you're like, Garrison Matthews is actually good. What do you think they're doing with him? Because he seems to be the odd man out, even if they do trade someone like Kolek or find a way to keep Brogdon and Shamet. He's almost being treated as an afterthought at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty interesting to me. I think him and Shamet are basically the same general archetype of player. They have some differences in how they play, but they're the same family tree of player. I think Shamet definitely gets helped by the fact that he was already here last year. It seems like he has good relationship with the guys on the team. We know he's good pals with Mikal Bridges, but it also seems like he kind of that it wasn't just that, right? I think that him and Hart seem to be good pals. Him and Deuce, whatever. You can go on and on. So I think that's part of that helps him. I don't know if Garrison Matthews has a legit chance to outplay him for a spot, or Brogdon for that matter. But hey, look, I'll say this. Maybe, look, Begley has kind of repeated now a couple times, hey, they want to sign a prorated veterans minimum guy in addition to those two, you'd have to move, Deuce or Dadiet. So maybe if you move Dadiet, maybe it's because they will have an agreement, right, with Garrison Matthews to be like, hey, look, we can't sign you right now. Stick around with us, play in the G League, stay in shape. And, as soon as we can in January or whenever the fuck, we'll sign you to that veterans minimum for the rest of the year. It could be maybe that's it. Maybe that's the plan. But, I want to be clear. Like, I do like Garrison Matthews, but I like him for what he is. Right? It's like I like Landry Shamet. I like Landry Shamet for what he is. These are guys who I think as 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th type guys that aren't going to be big minutes players every night, guys that might not even play every night. But I think they both profile to me as guys who are ready that stay ready. They stay prepared. They get up 3-point volume. No question. I think Garrison Matthews has 84% of his shots for his career are from three. The guy's just going to get up threes. Like, that's what he does. I think he's got a bit of a quicker trigger than Shamet and a cleaner release. I think he can get off more contested threes. Shamet has a little bit more juice inside the arc, which, it's not like Shamet's exactly.
Hairs,
right? Yeah, it's not like Shamet's some dynamite inside the arc score or anything, but he does have a little bit more juice. Neither guy is a particularly good defender. I think both of them compete. They're both they're the same level of defender to me, where I think they compete. I think they generally Matthews, like Shamet, I think he does a good job of generally sticking to the script. But yeah, there are guys that are just going to be able to take advantage of him. There are things that, he might die on a screen. He might whatever. But I think their actual execution and effort levels defensively are good. And I think that's fine. So I would, again, I'm not advocating that they dump Pacome Dadiet so that they can add Garrison Matthews at some point in the season. But if that's kind of the vision, maybe that is the vision, right? Maybe that is the plan for Garrison Matthews. I don't know.
So to be clear, you're saying that have to dump Kolek and Dadiet to keep all three, right?
No. Well, no. They could dump, if they dump Dadiet, they can sign Brogdon, they can sign Shamet, and then they can sign Garrison Matthews down the line on a prorated veterans minimum.
And if they trade Kolek, they can do it the same as well.
They can only sign the first two.
Okay, that's the difference.
Or two of the three. Doesn't matter. They can only sign two of the three.
So it's a question. So that's the main difference.
Yeah, I just wouldn't really give a shit about. I mean, I think they should probably dump Kolek either way. And I'm just forgetting. I'll rephrase that. Forget what I think, because I actually thought when I saw of Kolek last year, I wouldn't mind keeping him around. I don't really have an issue with him. I don't think he's super dynamic or anything, but I don't think that he's incapable of playing regular season minutes. But that lack of dynamism is real. And he's an older player, doesn't have a shit ton of upside here. So that is that. And then just look at the signals the organization's sending you, right? Or at least that they're giving off. They brought in Jordan Clarkson. That was their first offseason signing, actually. They are now trying to create space for Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, these are guys who would automatically kind of be in the lead ball handler pecking order over Tyler Kolek, even when Jalen Brunson is off the floor or if Jalen Brunson gets hurt. That's not exactly a great show of confidence in the guy. And I don't know. To me, it just feels like the writing's on the wall here. And I'd be shocked if Kolek's on the roster to start the season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's off, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I would. I tend to agree. I mean, let me put it like this though: if they do only trade Kolek, right? Why Shamet over Hurst Matthews? Because Matthews is 28. I don't think he has quite the injury history of Shamet. Shamet, I believe, is what now? No, Shamet is also 28. Yeah, I guess. I mean, would you view him? It looked quite clearly like Shamet just physically wasn't good to go. He had the injury issues last year. Maybe he's over that. I mean, his shoulder, so who knows? But I am curious if you think from that standpoint, availability, do you just not have concerns about either of them?
I don't really have concerns about Shaman. I mean, his injury last year was kind of fluky more than anything.
And he looked decent in the playoffs.
He looked good in the playoffs. He played well in the playoffs.
It was very limited time, right? So,
yeah, and I guess we should probably clear this up too. He sucked against the Pistons when he played for the first 5 seconds or whatever. But he was legit good when he played against the Pacers. Again, not a huge sample size, but he did play well in that series. Brogdon, the injury stuff is just there. It's been there his entire career. I don't really think there's anything controversial about saying he's an injury-prone player. But maybe, that's kind of like you can almost take the risk on him, or maybe you're taking the risk on both of them because you have the other in terms of Jordan Clarkson also had injury issues last year. Malcolm Brogdon has injury issues last year. Maybe you take the risk on both to recreate one of them in the aggregate or something. Like you're just kind of able to take the risk on both and then hope that overall over the course of the season, if one of them is giving you something at any given point in time, you're kind of covered there in terms of that additional ball handler in addition, other than Jalen Brunson. And, again, maybe, defensively it's definitely a concern, but I do think that at the very least, Brogdon and Clarkson have the type of size that you can at least play next to Brunson a bit and not be super worried, at least in terms of just purely
Wouldn't you just rather play Deuce though? He might be shorter.
You would, but I think you want options. But you want options. I think you want options. I think you want, and Deuce is great. Deuce doesn't allow you to play Brunson off ball. I think Clarkson and Brogdon, in theory anyway, their skill sets allow you to use Brunson off ball. Is that worth the trade-off of what you give up defensively? Maybe not. But you have a full season to figure that out. Can we reduce the kind of workload we're putting on Brunson in terms of what we're asking him to do in terms of shot creation for himself and for the team on a possession-by-possession basis? Can we reduce that overall load and all of that? Yeah, I don't know. I see the vision with how they're going about this. I just, I would want them to not go be too gung-ho about this is our window now, and therefore none of these young guys or young players matter. I don't think that's how they'll operate, just because that's not really how they.
Yeah, that's not how they operated. How long did we hear about Quickly rumors, right? How long did we hear about? They didn't trade Quickly on RJ until they got a big time piece, right? That made a ton of sense. The only they traded Obi because that wasn't going to work out. They probably took
Obi wasn't that meaningful of a player for the Knicks. He just wasn't. I'm sorry. It's not.
So that's why I brought up. Yeah, that's why I brought up the Grimes thing, because that's the one where I could see that guy could have helped last year, right? Where we're in need of perimeter defenders. You can argue that if they kept him, then they would have kept Fournier, which means they would have used Fournier as a salary, but Minnesota probably would have asked for him to be a throw-in. And not Minnesota, sorry, Brooklyn. Brooklyn would have asked but maybe that saves you a pick, right? I don't know. That's the only one, but they don't punt away young assets for players that have injury concerns that maybe give you 10 to. None of these guys is going to come in and play 20. This isn't Josh Hart we're talking about. We're going to play 25, 30 minutes, right? It is not PJ Tucker either, but that's just not how they operated. To your point, so. I would struggle to see that. The other thing I wanted to point out, by the way, is that after lots of rumors about Ben Simmons, the Knicks did sign the Rookie of the Year from Ben Simmons' draft class.
Sorry, say that again?
The Knicks signed the Rookie of the Year from Ben Simmons' draft class.
True.
The most forgotten Rookie of the Year ever, maybe, but still counts.
Yeah, that's 48-year-old rookie right there. Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. Look, the Brogdon thing is interesting because I think skill set wise, him and Clarkson are almost exactly what you've been missing off the bench. Like I do think the
He'll give you a little more on defense than Clarkson does, still, right? So
yeah, I mean he's just not, especially at this point in his career, he's not a particularly good defender. But like, I think a lot of the stuff last year with like how bad the bench was overblown. I think it was definitely overblown by the end of the season. No, okay. Maybe yes, you scoring guard archetype off the bench. Like yes, you lack that, but like your impact, your bench players' impact is actually really good because you're bringing two guys who have high impact off the bench, and they just contribute in ways that are different than what we normally associate with the bench, right? With kind of what you expect from bench players. So I think that was a little bit overblown, but they didn't have firepower off the bench last year, right? They didn't have options. They didn't have guys that could just come in and give you quick 6 to 8 points. And knock down a couple of threes all the time. They didn't have that type of juice off the bench. And you know, Clarkson and Brogdon, in theory, at least give you that. And I do think that Brogdon, maybe more so than Clarkson, dovetails quite nicely with a lot of their players. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the Alex Len thing is a little weird to me, why they're bringing him in on Exhibit 9 for a rookie. But I do wonder if some of that is like, you see this in football a lot of times. This is more common in football, actually, where a coach gets hired and then he brings in a couple of vets who are with him at his last stop or something. And it's like to help instill the culture, and they kind of know what's expected of them. So you can install, whatever you want, offensively, defensively, a little bit easier because this guy can kind of help put guys in the right spots. Basketball is different, but I do wonder if some of the stuff with Len is just like, hey, like, I don't think he had any offers, right? I don't think there was a lot of teams clamoring for his services. He did play for Mike Brown in Sacramento, so he's familiar, with what he wants schematically. And if he's happy to stay around in the G League, that's fine. I would be pretty surprised if he gets added to the roster in any capacity. At least right now. Maybe they make a move in season and that changes, but like right now, that would be pretty surprising to me. I thought that was a pretty interesting one, though.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Alex Len being signed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think big man depth is a huge issue, but it always can be in the blink of an eye, right? Cat is a player who's had injury issues. We know about Mitch. And then even Puck Porty was injured, right? Do you think they would have played Huck Porty at all in the playoffs if he had stayed healthy and remained on that track?
I don't. I'm not. No, I mean Tom Thibodeau's not playing that guy in the playoffs, man.
They played Precious, didn't they?
Precious is like a 50-year-old grizzled veteran compared to Huck Porty. So,
but okay, let's get out of the Tom Thibodeau mindset. Would you have played Huck Porty if he was healthy over Precious? Because I think that was the track he was on. Like, I would rather played him next to Mitch or next to Cat.
Look, man, maybe. I mean, I would have liked.
I don't want to relitigate Tibbs. I'm just saying this is kind of a point in Huck Porty's favor because I think he was on the trajectory. He's on a very good trajectory, in my opinion, if he stays healthy. But the point is, all three of the centers that we're going to rely on have injury issues. Alex
also have Yabusele.
I'm not counting him as a center yet.
I mean, he played majority of his minutes last year at center. He played 76% of his minutes or something like that.
Not a serious team that was trying to contend.
Yeah, but like, is Alex Len helping you contend more than?
Well, that's the point, right? So let's say Yabusele to me is he's 6'9", right? He's 6'9" and not a rim protector. He's a rim protector. He's not a rim protector. He's not giving you Draymond OG type stuff, right? I would almost prefer, if they're going to go small ball, to play OG at the 5. You can play Yabu at the 4 and then make them interchangeable a little bit. I do like him a lot. I think that, yeah, like if you have 3 7-footers, let's call them that if you don't want to call them centers, and they all have injury issues, I get it. You can Len is going to come in, be big, be in the right place, and then if you throw him an easy catch, you can catch it and dunk. It's kind of like the Taj rule. Now take away the mentorship and add like 4 inches, and that's what it is, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I just think Len's a guy that's been there. He's played under Mike Brown, so that's really all it is to me. I think Mike Brown maybe likes him, wants him around for training camp. Sure, whatever. I will be very surprised if he ever plays for the Knicks, to be quite honest. Maybe a place.
Yeah, but I mean, you can keep him in the G League, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I expect them to do. Keep him in the G
League.
And
then if you have, let's say, if Mitch misses, 30, 40 games at some point, you think about that, right? You can, if Mitch goes on IR for some, I don't know exactly the rules for IR in the NBA compared to NFL, but if we are able to open a roster spot for something like that, it makes sense, right? He's a viable rotation, or he's a minutes eater at worst, right? Who knows Brown's scheme?
Yeah, I mean that's really all it is to me. I guess might as well talk about it. Carmelo Anthony, he is now in the Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. There's now talk of his jersey being retired by the Knicks. Apparently, Begley has reported that there are many people in the organization that feel he should that should happen, but that ultimately the decision will be made by James Dolan. I do not think his jersey should be retired, but I'm open to any and all arguments for why he deserves such an honor.
Who are the jerseys retired for the Bills? You don't have to name all of them, but
I can pull them up right now. But
is Thurman Thomas retired?
Yes, I'm sure he is. I think Thurman,
Kelly.
They only have 3 guys apparently. The only 3 players who have their
Thurman, Kelly, Bruce Smith.
It's Kelly, Thomas, Bruce Smith.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said Thurman, not Thomas. So you got a high bar. You don't want to include Eric Moulds, Andre Reed, I guess, right? I mean, would you say Allen has done enough?
Andre Reed should have his jersey retired. I think there's some weird stuff between him and the organization that they're slowly mending the fences on. That I think his number will get up there soon.
And I would imagine you're opposed to retiring coaches' numbers, right? So Levy would be a non-starter for you.
Yeah, I mean, do you need I don't know what the hell. Why do you need to retire a number for a coach? Like, put his fucking name up there.
The Knicks have one, right? That's partly why I brought it up.
Well, yeah, but it's like they retired like his fucking win total number. I think that's fine.
If Allen doesn't win any more MVPs or win a Super Bowl, would you retire his jersey?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's kind of Melo won a scoring title. Melo came here when at the lowest point for the Knicks.
Wow. Out of the kindness of his heart.
No, I mean, I'm looking at what happened on the basketball court, right? Led them to a 54 season, 54 win season. Like I've said, I think that he's obviously behind Ewing and Brunson. I'd go back and forth on how I'd rank him versus Randall.
He's behind.
I think that's your best argument because I wouldn't retire Julius Randle's jersey for the Knicks. No, even though it's kind of sad that we can't because he did really help a lot.
I think if you retire Melo's jersey, there's literally no argument for why you shouldn't retire Randall's jersey. I'm not sure what the argument is. Like, what's the argument?
So we've retired. Dave DeBuscher's jersey's retired, but he was like the 4th option on a championship.
The Hall of Famer on a championship team. Yeah, winning fucking championships is part of it. Yeah.
But on that team, right, a lot of his Hall of Fame credentials do come from Detroit. So Melo was the lead option on a team that, won 54 games at a time when that was unheard of for the Knicks. He won a scoring title. He is a Hall of Famer. I think both of us, we're not too far. I tend to have less animosity towards Melo for the way he came here than you did, but I get like the validity of that because that did cause issues in terms of building around him. And other players have made that sacrifice. We've seen now Jalen Brunson leave a lot of money on the table to help the Knicks. So, I mean, I just think like in terms of retiring your jersey being this huge thing, I'm less, I probably have lower standards than you. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Randall get his jersey retired. Like, the Knicks, after we lost out, quote unquote, on Katie and Kyrie, he came here and made that look a bit like a better, like that day, if you remember, was a dark day for Knicks fans. And 2 years later, Randall was like, that was a good day for Knicks fans,
I was cool with it in real time.
I was not. With it in real time. That was just a tough day for me in general. But it was. I think that where we're gonna defer on this is that like I liked Melo. I thought he played hard when he was here. Do I wish that we could have signed him in free agency, or do I wish that we would have traded for maybe a guy like Chris Paul instead? Maybe. But I liked Melo, and he brought some good moments during dark times. Was like a star that New York had for the first time since really Ewing. I mean, you had flashes from guys like Marbury and Amari, but it did, give the Knicks some relevance. And what you neglect is if we're going to charge him for what he cost the Knicks in terms of team building, he brought the guy who fucking put the smack down on the Celtics. He brought the guy who fucking put Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in a chokehold, rolled him up, and threw him in a trash can.
On his way out.
So, yes. But if you're going to count what he did to get here against him, I'm going to count that in his favor a little bit.
He wanted to leave. I'm not giving him credit for that.
But he also wanted to come here, and we paid the price for that. So, like,
yeah, but okay, I think I don't think
either should be part of evaluating his legacy. But if we are going to include one,
no, I think forcing your way here when you could have just signed in free agency. And then pretend like I'm sorry, you don't get the like.
It wasn't
like,
just that.
He came here during dark times. You cannot get the benefit.
It wasn't just that he wanted the money. It was also that Denver didn't want to be left holding their dicks in their hands.
Yeah, but that's fine. The Denver part of it, Denver's motivation is.
So they're going to trade him no matter what.
Oh yeah, but you can just go to free agency no matter what. Then too, go play fucking 3 months with whoever the fuck, and then go enter free agency. Literally, all you have to say is, "I'm not going to sign for." I'm literally signing with the Knicks, no matter wherever you trade me. So you can trade me anywhere. I'm going to sign with the Knicks. That's what I'm going to do. He waffled on that, which is why it gave Denver some leverage to extract the price from New York. Now the Knicks should have just walked away. Knicks are stupid management. Okay, but here are the couple things that Melo constantly gets credit for, and I'm not sure why we're crediting him for this. One, the front office let him down. Wow. The front office that sucked for a long time, and he forced his way to the organization ran by the dumb front office. That front office let him down. Like you don't. It wasn't
supposed to be dumb. It had Donnie
Walsh. But they were dumb. Like they were
eventually. But Donnie Walsh had a good track record.
Donnie Walsh sucked. He was not good in New York. And if
in
you couldn't
New York,
see that,
after that, that's my point.
If he was not good before that, he was not good in New York.
You couldn't have evaluated the Azubuike and Turiaf and all of that shit.
I could have told you when, as soon as 2010, that summer comes around, I'd have told you he fucked up. He failed because he punted on multiple seasons, punted on draft capital, punted on players for 2.5 fucking years to get LeBron. Did not get LeBron. Okay, did not get LeBron. Ended up signing fucking Stat to a contract that everybody knew the second it was signed that it was going to end up being an
out. You want a Kalina Azubuike believer or
I loved Kalina Azubuike.
I wanted Anthony Randolph to be point forward.
Yeah, so. Great. I'm so happy that he got this haul, and guess what? It sucked. So that's what. Good. Congrats to him.
But at the time, it seemed like a good move. That's my point.
Okay, the point is, you cannot get the credit of, well, he came here when the front office let him down. Okay, but the front office sucked. Okay, so like if it was that bad, then ask out or fucking leave. Just fucking go. Like, he could have just gone, but he stayed again in 2014 because he liked being in New York. They gave him a lot of money, and that's all he gave a shit about ultimately, which is fine. That's his prerogative as a player. He does not need to care about winning. That did not need to be his priority at any point in any decision he made. That's his prerogative. That is his right as a player and a human being to prioritize whatever he wants to prioritize. But I'm not going to accept this argument of, well, the front office let him down. He was fine with that. He didn't care. He came here when the front office sucked, and he extended with the shitty front office. And then when he had the chance to leave, he'd say it again because Phil Jackson apparently whispered some sweet nothings into his ear, and then 3 months later, they all both wanted to kill each other. I'm sorry, you don't get the credit. The other thing you don't get credit for is he took the challenge. Give me a break. Give me a break of this. He took the challenge shit. You didn't take the challenge. He wanted to come to New York. Well, he wanted to be the marquee. He wanted to be the marquee franchise player in the Knicks because in that market, because it was good for him and it was good for his brand, and he wanted to make a lot of money, and he wanted to live in New York City. That's fine. That's fine. That's what you wanted. That's what he wanted. But I don't need this whole fucking, he took the challenge and he's this hero and, what is he, he's Batman? Give me a break. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. He's not selfless. He was not selfless in doing this.
No, but it matters.
He did not do this for the well-being of the Knicks. He did not do it for the well-being of us as fans.
Intent doesn't necessarily matter. If it did give the Knicks, who in a counterfactual, we would have been watching, I don't know.
We could have traded for Chris Paul. We could have traded for Chris Paul if we didn't trade for Carmelo Anthony.
So you can really get that decision, but
but my point is, he was not the end-all, be-all. So this idea that
you're saying that's the threshold you need to be.
My point is,
retired. Would you retire Bernard King's jersey?
No. Played 2 fucking years or whatever it was for the Knicks. I'm not going to retire a fucking jersey for that unless you win 2 championships in 2 years. Like you have to be literally like what Deion Sanders was with the Cowboys, where you just come in and you're supposed to be, the piece that takes us over the top, and then guess what? You're the piece that takes us over the top. I'll fucking retire.
For the Raptors, right? Yeah, I don't even know if he'll get his jersey retired.
Well, he might have to pay for it.
Or plant a tree.
but no, I'm sorry. Just the Melo thing is, look, if he gets his jersey retired, which it seems like it's going to happen, I'm not going to lose my mind over it. I'm not going to, be like, I can't believe the Knicks did this. This is horrible, whatever. But me personally, I don't look back on his time in New York fondly. I don't think it was this awesome thing. They won 1 playoff series. They got swept by the Celtics one year. They got gentlemen swept by the Heat the year after that. Then they win 54 games. Then they win 1 playoff series against the Celtics. Then they lose to the Pacers in the second round. And then we never make the playoffs again. He misses the playoffs in 2013-14, 2014-15, 2015-16, 2016-17, and then he's gone. That is not a run that I'm like, wow, what a player. We need to retire this guy's jersey. Is Walt has the Knicks retired Walt Bellamy's jersey?
Don't think so. I'll pull up all the retired jerseys.
The guy's a Hall of Famer, right? Walt Bellamy.
Here's a list of the retired numbers. This is Gemini's, so but I think it's accurate. Walt Frazier, Barnett, Monroe, Reed, DeBusschere, Bradley, Ewing, Holzman.
Yeah, so these are guys who helped them win a championship, or in Patrick Ewing's case,
Barnett is the most iffy there to me, but
yeah, whatever. He went to Michigan, right? We're good.
No, that's Kazi Russell, bro. Come on. Barnett,
Ewing obviously retired his number. Okay, played fucking 15 years,
but didn't win shit.
Gets you to the cusp of a championship. Gets you a lot further than Melo did, and did it consistently over a long period of time. You get credit for that. If that was what Melo's career was with the Knicks, if it's 7 years of hey, yeah, we get to the second round, and then I can kind of buy into the team let him down, and this guy didn't do this, and the front office didn't do that, and the coach fucked up this thing. That's fine. I can deal with that. But for what he gave us, No, man. I'm sorry. Like, this is just, it's just ridiculous to me. Like, this is not a player that you're like, wow, when we look back on this time in New York, think about all the good times we had. And I'm like,
I mean, Bill Bradley has had his number retired. Yeah, you can say he won, but again, it's the same argument. He wasn't.
yeah, but if you win,
of course, he was a one-time All-Star.
If the Knicks won a championship in 2012-13.
So would you retire OG's number? Yes. Or sorry, 2013. Sorry, let's go back.
Yeah, but if
would you retire J.R. Smith's number if the Knicks won a championship?
Sure, dude. I don't give a shit. You win a championship, I'll retire a fucking number. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm not that picky about it if you win a championship, but you got to win a fucking championship. And if you didn't win a championship, then your career has to be so exemplary that, like, it's unimpeachable. And I'm sorry, Carmelo Anthony, unimpeachable Hall of Famer, right? Like, no question in my mind, he's a Hall of Famer. I think that's not debatable. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Whatever my issues are with him as a player and whatever, like, that is not actually debatable to me. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has a resume, especially with whatever the fucking basketball Hall of Fame is now. Like, there's no question. Carmelo Anthony.
Schroeder is allegedly going to go in. So
yeah, which is a disgrace. But, like, you know, wins national championship at Syracuse, is basically really good in the NBA from the day he gets to the NBA. You know, he's really good in Denver. He's obviously, what is he, like however many All-Star teams he made, All-NBA teams he made. Like, there's no question he's a Hall of Fame player. But for me, Hall of Fame player is different than, am I retiring your number for the franchise? So nobody else, like, you were so good for this team. You were so important for this franchise. You gave us so many moments as a franchise that nobody else can ever wear this number. And again, I don't think that needs to mean a championship, but it's got to be more than this. It's got to be more than, yeah, like the first 2.5 years you were here, we were kind of good, and then we sucked for the rest of the time.
You know how many players have won a scoring title while a member of the Knicks?
I would imagine he is either the only one or one of two.
Can you guess the other?
King.
Yeah.
And I don't want to retire Bernard King's number.
But, I mean, there are some. So he's a 10-time All-Star. I think, how many of those were with the Knicks? So he actually only made the All-NBA team once with the Knicks. That is, sorry?
He only made the All-NBA team once with the Knicks? That's interesting.
All-NBA, no, sorry. So he was All-NBA third team in 2012, All-NBA second team in 2013. So he made it twice with the Knicks. He made the All-Star game every year he was on the Knicks. And he won a scoring title. That is reasonably high. Let me ask you this. If Brunson retired tomorrow, if he retired tomorrow, there'd be a whole lot of baggage. But if there was some universe where you're just evaluating his accomplishments, you wouldn't retire his number either.
No. Like, and in his case, to me, is better than Melo's. But no, I wouldn't.
And not Randall's either, I would imagine.
No, I wouldn't. I've never even considered retiring Randall's number until now. It's like, if Melo's retired, like, yeah, I mean, I think you seriously need to consider it then. Like, I get that Melo resonates in a way.
He's better than Randall. Like, he's a better player.
But even forgetting that, he just resonates in a way that Randall never will, right? Like, he has a higher stature. Like, he's an actual, whether he was actually a star, or superstar, or whatever he was on the court, he was certainly a superstar kind of personality, and had all of the cachet and all that stuff that comes with that. Randall didn't have that, and he doesn't, and he never will. But, like, I don't know. I feel like if you're retiring Melo's, like, you should at least consider it. I mean, Randall would have made more All-NBAs.
He only missed the playoffs once. You can say he had Brunson.
No, I missed the playoffs twice. First year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But he would have made All-NBA 3 times, if not for his shoulder popping out. In his final season in New York, he made the All-Star game 3 times. And, like, you talk about the depths of the franchise, I would argue that Randall came in at a much lower point than Melo
like
did.
I said, and especially with KD and Kyrie being the prize.
Yeah, and like, I'm not trying to take away, like, oh, well, Melo helped the Knicks at least establish themselves as, like, a playoff level team in the East. But like Amari, in a lot of ways, like kind of turns that around before Melo gets there. Like it's just a different one to me. Whereas like Randall actually, I mean, he came up through the shit, man. Like he signed with the Knicks. Nobody, I mean, like you mentioned, I was fine with like all of the stuff that happened at that point in time when the Knicks signed Randall and Portis and Gibson, whatever. I was fine with that, but it's not like I was sitting there like, thank God we got Julius, dude. This guy's about to fucking go off and like put on for the city or something. Like no, like he was a consolation prize, right? Flat out, he was a consolation prize, and his first year, in large part down to the coaching, but like it does not go well. He is not beloved by the end of that season to the point where we're all concocting trades for him to go to Charlotte for Nicholas Batum's expiring contract. And then he just morphs into an All-NBA player, helps the Knicks get the 4 seed the next year. I would say that part of the reason, not entirely, obviously I think Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks hiring Jalen Brunson's father, I think those are bigger reasons why Brunson comes to New York. But like, I do think Randall at least getting the Knicks to the playoffs, and then like as bad as that, that third season is, that 2021-22 season is, they're not like actually terrible, right? They're like meh, like 37-45. They're,
you can argue bad luck. Their net rating was a playoff team, right?
They're mediocre, but they're not awful. Like I think that was at least you knew like the cupboard wasn't bare if you're Brunson, and I do think Randall is part of that. You get to the second round the following year. I know Randall's playoff numbers and whatever are not the best. That's damning with fan praise.
Have you talked about that before, Shwin? Because I think you've never, I've never heard you criticize Randall for that playoff.
Never would. But like, like you win a playoff round, whatever. Like, I just think that if you're gonna kind of paint the vision for Melo, it's pretty easy to paint the same type of vision for Julius Randle. And if you're going to start, and I think if you're going to start, if you're saying the standard to get your jersey retired is Carmelo, like that type of career, whatever, with the Knicks, I think Julius is right there. And I don't think that's crazy to say. And then like at that point, if that's the bar, then like, if that's the bar, then, would I retire Brunson's jersey if he retired tomorrow or something? Like, maybe then I would. If
Brunson wins the championship this year, I mean, if they win the championship this year, who are you retiring?
What do you mean?
Well, okay, if they win the championship this year, I assume you would retire Brunson's number, even if retired the next.
Yeah, I'd probably consider that. Yeah, I think I'd think about it. Yeah, they can all get their jersey retired, man. I don't give a shit.
Dadiet.
Yeah, all of them. No, I mean like the starting five and like Mitch can get in there.
Hart, assuming you. So Deuce then. You're retiring McBride.
Maybe.
I mean, I actually think that's an interesting question. Like, would you? Because like that is to me, it's like Bill Bradley or DeBusschere getting retired as their jersey is like OG getting retired, getting his jersey retired, right? Or Bridges.
Yeah.
Which to me is kind of more of a fringe case, and I think for many fans are more of a fringe case than Melo. Yeah, you were on a winning team, but Melo was like the linchpin of a team.
I would.
You can argue OG is, but the others.
The one thing I would say, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like don't let the gray fool you. I was not alive for 1970 and 73. I cannot. Yeah, I cannot. I cannot speak to the definitively to each player, but like, I think my understanding is like. I think DeBusschere is like, I think he deserved that. Like, he deserved to be retired. He was kind of the piece that put them over the top, right?
In the way that OG kind of would be.
Right. And so, like, but I do think from, again, my understanding, Bill Bradley did not really deserve it. And, like, I think in a lot of ways.
He was a senator. That's kind of what.
Well, in a lot of ways, Bradley, I think, was a bit of a disappointment, considering where he was drafted and then his kind of stature and hype coming in. So, like, he's a little bit fortunate. So, like, I don't know, if you were to kind of draw some parallel with the Knicks now, it would be like, okay, well, like, OG is probably, the DeBusschere and Bradley is like, that, and, Hart is, I don't know what the hell he is. Hart's like fucking some.
Hart is like, well,
Jerry Lucas or something.
No, if the Knicks won in '94 and a certain player didn't shoot 3 for 19, his jersey
18.
3 for 18, his jersey would probably be retired, right? Or there wouldn't be any questions about why his jersey wasn't retired if they won in '94. To me, that's hard. If they win this year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably true. Like if they win this year, I think Brunson gets in. I think Brunson obviously would get his jersey retired. Depending on how much longer these guys play for the Knicks, I would imagine Karl-Anthony Towns would be in very, very serious consideration. I think Josh Hart would probably get his number retired. Again, depending on how long he
over OG
with the team. I don't know. I mean, I love OG. OG's a better player. I do think there's something with Josh Hart that resonates with like fans and stuff in a way that's different and that matters for this stuff, even if I don't think it should.
But that's so kind of go ahead, sir.
So like I don't know. I think OG might. He might. It's possible. I genuinely think if they win a championship, though, they probably cannot do it without Mitchell Robinson playing really, really well. And the dude is the longest tenured Knicks since Allen Houston. So, like, I don't know.
He does not have his jersey retired, though, and made a finals game with
which is fine with me. Which is fine. He doesn't deserve to have his jersey retired, as far as I'm concerned. But like, I don't know, if they win a championship, I think Mitchell Robinson would probably be central to that. And then you could look back at like, let's say the Knicks win the championship this year. Let's live in this world. It's a fun hypothetical where in June we're both celebrating.
It's the least hypothetical it's ever been, I think, Shwin, in our life.
Well, the least hypothetical it's been since 94.
97.
94, 97, yeah, whatever. It's like in that scenario, I think Mitch has to be important to their run. So you're giving him credit for that. And then you'd look back at like the totality of his time and you'd be like, well, it's pretty interesting that like every time we won a playoff series, Mitch was really, really important to that. He actually is here from literally the worst season in Knicks franchise history, or at least tied for it, 17-65, to the opposite end. So he like sees the full fucking run. I would probably.
He's literally won us one playoff series at least, arguably multiple. Right?
I think he's won us he's obviously won the Cavs series for us. I think you can argue that he like
Detroit.
I don't know if he won the Philly series for us, but like I'll say this: they don't win it without him. They definitely don't win it without him.
Guess who knew that? Embiid, right? So
well, he won us the Celtics series in a lot of ways.
What I'm saying is the fact that Embiid tried to. We've seen a team's MVP try to injure Mitch because he couldn't figure him out. To your point, I think the Celtics, he was arguably an MVP to the point that their coach tried to get him out of the game. And I actually think I would put in the Pistons too, right? Because we weren't starting him against the Pistons, but when he came in, Duran was like in Finding Nemo when like the fucking shark comes in and this little squirt just, I forget the thing, the ink fish or whatever, just like inks itself. That's what I saw every time when Mitch came in, and it was like, Duran has some good numbers, and then you see like this monster shadow and Duran's just like, nope, it's over.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting hypothetical. I think like, but really the only one that I would say for sure that you would retire is Brunson, right? Like, other than that, I think everybody else is just kind of like, I don't know. Like maybe I need to see how it plays out. Like if Towns plays another 4 or 5 years with the Knicks, puts up decent numbers, we're still a good team. Maybe we never win another championship, but if you have the championship and then you're still a playoff team for another 3, 4, or 5 years, I think all those guys benefit from that. And you might get like a big group fucking, like the, what was that Hawks team? It was like the 2014 Hawks or whatever, where they all got the All-Star bid. Like it'll be like
I think that's disrespect. Brunson is not Jeff Teague, or I guess.
No, but I'm saying the concept of like all of these guys getting their jerseys retired or something would be like the retirement franchise jersey retirement.
Like Andrew Clark getting his jersey retired for winning state.
Hey, he kicked a field goal.
That was in East Dillon. I'm talking about in Dillon.
Yeah, he made a big tackle to cause a fumble. Swung the game.
Should David Tyree have his number retired?
I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that.
You can't speak to that?
I mean, I would. I don't think the Giants have won 4 Super Bowls. Like, they're one of the original franchises, right? So, like, no, like David Tyree should not have his jersey retired.
But I think you're getting to an interesting point that is painful to recollect, but the Knicks, in fact, are not the Celtics or the Lakers, right? Where the Lakers can debate retiring James Worthy's number, right? It would not be a debate for the Knicks. The Knicks have had stars few and far between of that level. And you mentioned something else that I think is ultimately why Melo will get his jersey retired. It is bigger than basketball in many ways, right? I think that presence and all of that, you said it yourself, right? Is that how you would pick it? No, and I respect that. And this is kind of a very subjective thing anyway. Melo in many ways was a cultural icon, right? At a time when the Knicks were a laughingstock. It wasn't just a guy from Dallas coming in and, you know, a team that's down on its luck, a guy who's been – that was in its – to me, actually, the Randall Knicks story is a little bit more – I mean, how could you not be romantic about basketball, right? But that was, to me, even a little bit more cool, right? That Randall had been, you know, cast aside as a 6-man, you know, was in a draft class with other ballyhooed players and was a little under the radar despite being the top recruit in his class. He comes to this team that nobody wants. They're both rejects, and they, you know, they help each other out, right? That to me, in some ways, is better than Melo's whole "I'm coming home" thing. But to people, like that cultural essence, like Melo and the Knicks, that being a thing, like that matters. Should it? I don't know. I don't think we make the rules. But I will say it's going to matter a little bit more here than if we were LA or if we were the Celtics or if we were even a team like Houston. Right? So we just haven't had that many great players. And maybe to your point, maybe that means you don't retire that many jerseys, right? The Bills only have retired 3. But yeah.
I mean, that's what it is, though, to me. It's like, okay, so like, what are we going to do? We start fucking, like, we think, like, I'm, like, forget the Melo thing. I don't think Melo's jersey should be retired, right? But, like, it's a joke to me that Nick Collison's jersey is retired. Like, why was that a thing? Nick Collison? Fucking kidding me? Like, no. Like, that's,
well, it's especially sad because that franchise, 2 jerseys I would fight to get retired do not even have anything to do with the Knicks. I think Sean Kemp and Gary Payton don't have their jerseys retired anywhere. That's the shittiest thing about Nick Collison getting his jerseys retired.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I'm to me, like, I actually think, for me, this is just me, I think the standard for jersey retirement should be higher than the Hall of Fame. Because the Hall of Fame to me is like, Durant is going to he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? And he'll deserve it as much as I despise him and think he's the worst human being of all time. He deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But, like, if I were a Thunder fan, I'd be like, I don't want his fucking jersey retired. If I was a Golden State fan, I wouldn't want his jersey retired. If I were I mean, maybe if I'm a Nets fan, I would because I have no standard. But, like, they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. The Suns, obviously not. The Rockets, he's probably not going to finish playing. He's probably not going to play there more than 3 years or something. Like, that just wouldn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't think he deserves to have his jersey retired at any of these places.
I think that's a little different than Melo, but
like Durant's way better than Melo. Like, he's better at everything. He's literally better at everything.
Which is why I would push back a little bit on him not getting. Yeah, I think that's a fair point though, because he still played what 6 or 7 seasons in Oklahoma City. He brought them to a finals. He won MVP. Yeah. So he was arguably more successful in Oklahoma City than Melo was in New York.
Not arguable, he was. He was an MVP. They went to the finals. They went to multiple Western.
Well, his mom was the real MVP, but
that's right. That's right. But they went to like multiple Western Conference finals. You know, like they
weren't losing to Roy Hibbert. They lost to the fucking 73-win Warriors, right? So
they lost to the 73-win Warriors. They lose to the Spurs team that goes on to win the championship in 2014. They lose to the fucking Heat in 2012 in the finals. Like they were losing to high quality teams most of these years. And in a lot of the years when they didn't, or maybe when they lost earlier than you expected, it's because, you know, Russell Westbrook's out or Durant's out. Yeah. So that just, to me, it's like, and I don't think his jersey should be retired there because of the way he leaves, I wouldn't retire his jersey, but he has a better claim to me. But like, I'm just saying, like, to me, the Hall of Fame, it's easier because it's your whole career, and I don't think. I mean, the standard of the Hall is lower, right? It just is. Like, we don't need to. We already talked about this earlier today, but like, with retiring your jersey, just for me, this is just how I view it. It is like, this number you wore, no one else is ever going to wear this, because everything you achieved here in this team with this franchise, this point in time, not only did we hit a certain threshold of success as a team, but you left us with indelible moments, and the way you conducted yourself throughout your time here is exemplary, let's say. And that doesn't mean that like you need to be some saint or like you did no wrongs or whatever, but the idea of like, fans look back at that time and they think and they view you only in a positive light. And I don't know, like, I just don't think Melo, maybe the fan thing, he hits that, but like, as far as like what the team did and these indelible moments, like one of the moments people bring up is like, oh, he scored 62 at the Garden. And it's like, he scored 62 against the Bobcats in a season where we didn't make the playoffs. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not that indelible of a moment to me. Like, I don't think that, for me, that's not even the game of Melo's that I enjoy. Like, that's not the highlight that I go watch of his if I ever want to watch a highlight of his on the Knicks.
I mean, for me, the best moment was the Bulls game where he hit the three.
Yeah, that one's good. My favorite game of his is just the 50 points in Miami, all jumpers, nothing in the paint. I think that's ridiculous. I've never seen anybody else do that.
All right, relax, ball, don't stop. But
yeah, exactly. He knew who he was at the elbow that day. But it's like a crazy performance that you just never. I don't think you'll ever see that again. Like, I really don't think you'll ever see a guy score 50 with nothing in the paint. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Closest would have Clay had that 37-point quarter, but I think he had a couple layups. So
yeah. So I don't know. That one's pretty crazy to me. But like, the point is, like, I just don't think the totality of it is that meaningful, because half of his career in New York, whoever you want to blame it on, it's not his fault maybe, but like half of his career is just, we're a lottery team. And I'm sorry, like, I think for a player of his stature that came in with the kind of fanfare he did, I just expected more. And I'm holding him to a higher standard than I would like most players, because he deserves to be. Like, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I expected more from him in his time in New York, and he didn't deliver. And I don't look back on his time in New York and feel like, I feel like part of it should be like, did you max out? Do I feel like you maxed out, or that there was really nothing else I could have asked of you? And I don't feel that way about Melo. Like, I know that there are people who do, but I'm sorry, I don't feel that way about him. I think it's crazy for a player of his talent that the standard isn't higher. Like, he should have been better, and not just in New York, in his career. Like, he should have been a better player than he was, and what he was is a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's how talented I think. That's how highly I think of his talent. So I do hold that against him, and yeah, but like, there are a lot of guys I wouldn't retire their number. Like, and I don't like.
I mean, if we're using the maxed out thing,
like I wouldn't retire.
Would you retire Pau Gasol's number for the Lakers?
Yeah, they don't win 2 championships without him.
They did, and they are not like the Knicks short of options, right? So
right. They don't win 2 championships without him. Like, that matters.
But I would ask this, right?
And more than it, he's the piece that put them over the top, right? So it's like, I think he's clearly on a higher level than DeBusschere in terms of like all time, whatever. But it's the same kind of concept of like, okay, this guy elevated us. We went from here to here. Like, that's a big difference, and I think that has to matter.
But I think I want to push back a little bit on this maxing out thing. I could argue LeBron didn't max out with the Cavs.
I don't think
he won 1 title. He did lean into a heliocentric style of play that cost him in the playoffs. because he just didn't have the kind of jump shooting games. He didn't. Well, I think that was that's to me the difference between LeBron and Jordan is that Jordan just like LeBron has developed this pull up game at a time when his athleticism defense diminished. If he had them all at this, he did kind of have them all at the same time in that 2-year run.
So this is an interesting one. Like Bill Laimbeer, not a Hall of Famer, but has his jersey retired. And I think that actually makes sense to me. Like that makes sense to me.
Well, that's also kind of that it's not about just what's happening on the floor. It is like he gave them their identity and shit.
If his career is exactly the same, let's say it's exactly the same, but they don't win either of those championships, his jersey's not retired.
Yeah, that's true.
But like winning a championship does. So like I don't know that there is. I think when it comes to this specific topic, more so than Hall of Fame, this specific topic, the retiring of a jersey, I think we're all hypocrites. All of us. I think all of us are hypocrites because it is subjective. And I think I've mentioned this to you before. Where like what I always struggle with is I think Magic Johnson and Shaq at the minimum those two, and probably Kareem, right? So let's say those three, and West, right? So 4 guys. I think you can name those 4 guys, and you could at least maybe you don't agree with all of them, but I think those 4 guys, whatever you think about them, they're at least in the argument for they were better players than Kobe Bryant, right? I think most people would at least give you Magic and Shaq. I think most people would give you Kareem. I think there would be an argument about Jerry West between older heads and Kobe stands,
Wilt
whatever.
Didn't play long enough.
Leave that aside. Right. But leave that aside. Just say those 4. But what I've always thought is like, I still think Kobe in some way is like the greatest Laker. Like, I don't think he's the best player to have played for the Lakers, but I do think he is the best Laker. I think there's
not as much, right? So
yeah. So like, I think there's something to that where it's like this conversation that we have about like retiring jerseys. It's just not the same thing as like, who was the better player in their career, who's a Hall of Famer, who's not a Hall of Famer. I think there's more to it. I think it's all subjective. I think we're all hypocrites when it comes down to it about this because it is subjective. It's something about it is like, it's like what you feel in your gut. And like, I don't know, like you asked me, like, I don't think there's a world like Josh Allen plays next 10 years with the Bills. They never win a championship, but they have the success they've had in terms of like, you're getting to the playoffs every year, you're winning division titles, you're getting to conference championship games. Maybe you break through playing a Super Bowl a couple of times or whatever. I would be like, yeah, no, you're retiring his number. There's no question about it. No question like that. That's fine. And even if you don't get to a Super Bowl, whatever, but like, even at this point, like for what he's done at the stage, I'd probably retire his number now. Whereas Carmelo, for me, it's like, I don't feel that way about him, even though that as things stand, I mean, I guess Allen has played more time now with Buffalo, but like they've basically spent the same exact amount of time. But I don't feel that way about Carmelo because I don't think he hit the heights individually and certainly not as part of a team during his time in New York that make me feel good about it. Like, I guess that's really the only way I can put it. Like, it just doesn't make me feel good.
What it sounds like to me, I think you can, if you're a champ, if you have won a championship, the bar goes down to like Laimbeer, right? If you're a big time contributor on a championship, you're the best player, you're the driving force, that matters. And I think to your point, I think this is how you might frame it, right? If you are the best player on a team that never wins a championship, but you're constantly getting close, or you're Patrick Ewing running into Michael Jordan, or Hakeem Olajuwon, or you're Josh Allen constantly running into horrible luck in the Chiefs, you're, Hakeem would have had his jersey retired even if he didn't win anything, right? David Robinson would have, but those were guys who were making it to the cusp and just beaten by So like, because I think to your point, it is gut feeling, right? So when you're, and there are, we obviously will always root for champions, right? Nick Foles, let alone Jason Kelsey or Lane Johnson, is never gonna have to buy a beer in Philadelphia again, right? If you win, there's nothing better than that. But I think to your point, right? Like the guys we've talked about who never won it, you always felt like we are at war and fuck it, we might be the underdog. We're going against MJ and Scotty, but fuck it, I'm gonna ride with my guy because Ewing is bringing us as close as anyone could. And I would agree with you that Melo, there wasn't a series where he really felt like that, right? Like even when we beat Indiana, what I really have felt like, that might have been his major claim. If he ever had a series against the Heat where he's fucking taking LeBron to six, it's like 6 hard-fought games, and he's trading game winners down the stretch with LeBron. I mean, he kind of did that with Kobe in the Western Conference Finals, but he never did that in New York.
It's also like, okay, so 2011-12, they lose in 5 games to Miami. That team is beat up. I think that's pretty understandable. I'm not going to kill Melo for that, but it's not a point in his favor, really, right? It's like, okay, like I'm not going to kill him for losing in 5 games to that Miami team. But I'm also not going to sit here and be like, oh, my God, what a fucking performance. I'm just not going to do that. They get swept his first year in New York to the Celtics. Again, I don't think anybody looks at that series and blames Carmelo. And certainly, if we're going to be very real about it, we often look back at the series and watch game 2 and blame one Jared Jeffries for not winning us the game. But
and it was a pretty incredible performance. But
that is his best playoff individual game performance in New York. It's just is. There's really not a debate to be had. But I can appreciate that single game performance. But again, I don't come away from that series being like, well, holy shit, like what else could you do, right? Like amazing. Like I don't come away from that. But okay, so whatever, you get swept, then you lose in 5 to the Miami Heat, 2011-12. Very understandable, fine. Next year, you lose to the Pacers. I think what is lacking is there was nothing after that. Like we did not. If you keep hitting your head at a certain point, I think then at that point it probably is more about it's that your team is lacking something. It's not just about you as a player, right? It's your team as a whole, whatever it is, they're lacking. And yes, you're part of that. Individuals are part of the team. Stars are certainly, responsible for whatever the limitations of their teams are. But you would look at that and be like, okay, well, did they ever go and get him X? Did they get Y? What happened here? I think you would understand that. And it's why I'm assuming, I don't know if this is true or not, I would assume that Memphis, for example, I think Zach Randolph will get his jersey retired there. I think Marc Gasol will get his jersey retired there. I think Mike Conley probably gets his jersey retired there. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but I do think a couple of those guys will. And I think there's a reason why those teams, that grit and grind team, is still kind of looked upon quite fondly by Grizzlies fans and even by NBA fans. There was something about them that resonated, right? And I just don't there isn't that with Carmelo's time in New York, because it just ends. We lose to the Pacers, which again, I'm not going to kill him for that. Again, it's a series though. I'm not going to look back at it and be like he was blameless. He did not score well in that series, and I get it. He didn't have any help and blah blah blah. But okay, but the guy's supposed to be a superstar, right? You expect more. I'm sorry, I expect more. But that's not where my issue with retire. It's that there's no story after that, really. What's the story we're telling? Oh well,
we got Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, well, it's and then the Knicks sucked and Carmelo made all-star teams, and it's okay, there's no. Well, then he played he played LeBron the next year, and then LeBron went to Cleveland and he couldn't beat Cleveland a couple of years. You didn't hit your head constantly against the guy who ended up winning all the time, right? Not the team. You didn't go up against teams every year that won the conference or won the championship. And that's not. It's
not. You can argue Brunson has, by the way, right?
You can
lost
argue that.
Every year Brunson has been here. They lost the the runner-up. Indiana, well, they lost in the second round, so Indiana, of course, made the Eastern Conference. But Brunson has never lost a playoff series where it wasn't at least a conference finalist, if not, and twice it was the overall runner-up this year in 7 games.
Yeah. And he won a playoff series as an underdog against the Cavs. Like whether they should have been or whatever, they were underdogs. They
were arguably pretty split even. The odds against Philly were that was not some
and they have a huge upset against the Celtics this year. They beat the Pistons and the Sixers in the last year's an opening round series that are like among the most entertaining opening round series in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So like there are all these things you remember, even amidst the frustration of losing to the Pacers this past year in the conference finals. Like I remember that game 5, which was like that was just Brunson absolutely like that's a peak of his powers type of game. And I don't know, that resume to me, it is stronger, but like you said, like it's about getting there consistently. And if you get there consistently, then yeah, like I don't need you to win a championship. Like
I think it has to inspire that feeling that like Brunson may never be a 1A, but like you and me, when we turn on the game and it's the fucking playoffs, like we are fucking like ride or die with this guy. That was a harder feeling to get when Melo would be going up against LeBron. You know what I mean? Like Brunson, you knew like this guy a few times in any series going for 40. He is going to bring you to the precipice, right? Does he have flaws? Absolutely. Maybe Melo is even a more talented player. I think that's just a feeling that sounds like inspired very consistently from you. Whereas I've had that feeling since the first fucking playoff game Brunson played.
Yeah, it's he is delivered. Like he has delivered in big spots for the Knicks, and not just in games or in moments, but like to win series. I mean, you look back, yes, the Knicks won a playoff series with Carmelo against the Celtics, and it was awesome that we beat the Celtics. But like you go back and watch that series, like look through it, and it's not like Melo is
champs. They were the same.
They were a very, very much a Celtics team in decline. And I'm just going to pull it up real quick because I want to see this. So Knicks, Celtics, 2013. I'm just going to look at a closeout game. All right. So Knicks, Celtics, 2013. This is a closeout game. Looking at the box score here. Carmelo Anthony. This is just his box score, okay? 7 of 23, 21 points. He had 5 assists to 3 turnovers, 7 rebounds. He played 40 minutes. The most efficient scorer on the team is, funny enough, is Iman Shumpert. He has 17 points on 9 shots. Felton has 11 on 14. Like I'm not killing him for this game. I'm just saying like this was not some like virtuoso moment. Whereas you look at what Brunson did against the Sixers last year, right? Where it's like you have 4 straight games of him. What was it? 40 and 10, whatever it was. 4 straight games, like crazy shit. You have this year against the Pistons where it's like, I mean, that some of the buckets he made down the stretch in a closeout game on the road are crazy. They're crazy, crazy shots. You look at his game 4 against Boston this year. I mean, that's like as far as his career to date. That's his like. That's his game. That's the game that is the kind of like. I would say, at least for me, I felt like that was a game that if anybody is ever like, well, is Brunson really on the level of some of these guys? I'd be like, well, if you think Tatum's on a level, here's a game. Like, here's a game where it happened. And obviously, Tatum gets injured. Hopefully, he gets better whenever he gets better. But like Brunson had that game won. He took it from them. Defending champs, in a game that they were down double digits at halftime. And he took that from them. You don't have that from Melo. And like maybe, and part of the reason you don't have that from Melo is because you didn't get there consistently. You didn't give yourself enough chances. Like part of it is like you don't like if you don't get there consistently, you don't get enough chances. And Carmelo obviously didn't do that. Like and I think it's interesting, right? I think even if he does that, and let's say because it's playoff time in New York. I tell you this, it ain't quite Julius, but those efficiency numbers are bad in New York, really bad. His playoff efficiency numbers in New York.
It's tough to agree with that for sure. I mean, if you gave him Jalen Brunson, or if you gave him
like DeMar, yep.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you gave him some help, maybe it helps that. That's the argument that people make. But I do think, to your point, however true that may be, we didn't get to see him very often go to that place, right? We've seen it. We've seen Brunson with the team falling apart against the Pacers. Yeah, his efficiency fell last year, not this year, but with the team literally dying, it took a broken hand to finally burying him in Game 7, right? With OG out, or he played technically in Game 7, but Hart hurt, Mitch out, right? You're playing these two big lineups with Precious and Hartenstein. I think you were in the middle of saying DeRozan had higher efficiency than.
Well, no. I was not. What I was going to say is, I don't think anybody looks back at that like DeRozan Lowry team and is like, what incredible playoff moments DeMar DeRozan gave me or gave us. Like, well, maybe we do, but not in the way you think that he would have. Like, because you're like, how did you suck so much ass in the playoffs all the time? But like, he got there all the time, right? Those teams got there all the time. He's beloved there still, right? DeRozan is still like a beloved Raptor. He's probably going to get his jersey retired. I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't get his jersey retired. And I think that speaks to just like the value that, maybe outside fan bases, right? Like, to us, like the Lowry, DeRozan Raptors are like, they were like a meme, right? They became a meme. But for that team's fan base, like I think this happens a lot where these teams that constantly hit their head and don't quite get over the top, they become memes. Like the Bills are a meme. Like, it's obvious. Like they're a meme. They always lose to the Chiefs. They haven't done
Dame Blazers too. I would put in that.
But that team.
But in Portland, Dame is fucking God.
Yeah, in Portland, Dame is God. In Buffalo, Josh Allen is God. If in Toronto, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are they're at the top of the pile. Like, even though Kawhi is the one that is the best player on your championship team, Kyle Lowry is like the Toronto Raptor, right? I think there's
Bosh would get his jersey retired.
I honestly don't have any strong thoughts on it because I don't really remember.
I feel like
I don't really remember how it ended in Toronto. Like, I don't remember if that
he left the LeBron summer, right?
Well, so that I remember, but I don't remember if it was like an acrimonious kind of thing, or if it was.
I don't know if it was acrimonious, but they sucked. He was putting up like 25 and 10.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And he was known. I actually was like, we got Amari because Chris Bosh is soft, and that's better. That was my rationalization that summer. And Chris Bosh was a horrible defender in Toronto. Obviously, the opposite was true in Miami. Becomes the linchpin on defense and a very good third option. But
Amari
I think
Amari was the better like centerpiece type player, but obviously as a tertiary option, you want Bosh over Stat.
I also think Toronto was just a shit show in a way that Amari got to play with one of the greatest point guards ever. I don't even remember anyone else on that Bosh
Felton?
team. I'm talking about in Phoenix. But I mean, that was my impression. I think a lot of people would have said Stoudemire was the better piece than Bosh that year, right? I mean, it's partly Cope. Like, we didn't get LeBron or Wade, but our best player is better than the third.
I wanted Stat anyways.
Yeah. But obviously Bosh evolved his game in a way that Stat wasn't able to. And he became much more than that. But the point is, even if you call Bosh glorified Paolo Banchero in Toronto, he was a better player than DeRozan. But I think that's kind of your point, right? I've seen a lot. I don't think there's a lot of Raptors fans who want Bosh to get his number retired, not out of acrimony, but for the same reasons you mentioned. Yeah, great player. We didn't win shit with him, right? Whereas there's more of an emotional attachment to a guy like DeRozan, who you kept getting there, who you saw in these moments do his best and put himself on the line for the team over and over and over again. That even the better player didn't do, right? So,
yeah. All right. Yeah, I agree with all that. I think it's a good place to end this. All right, Stacy, let people know they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug.
You can find me at Stacy Patton 89. Nothing to plug. Yeah.
Awesome. I will just plug all the work at Strickland. We will be getting back on track with the pods and everything now that the season is on. Thank you again to everybody for listening. Nothing to plug. So just check out all the work at Strickland. That is our show for today. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the week. Thank you to our sponsor, FanDuel, and I'll see you on Friday. Peace.